Much as Finley's players had come to despise him, virtually all of the Raiders felt a deep affection for Davis.
Everything was just a little cut above. But in order to earn that little cut above, you had to win, because that's what it was all about, winning.
In 1973, Ken Stabler came into his own. Left-handed quarterbacks were suspect, and Davis preferred bomb throwers. But the snake, pinpoint accurate, was Madden's choice.
He had a great mind. In those days, the quarterback used to call his own plays, and he was a real field general. And as well as he did the mechanics of throwing the ball, and he was a great play caller.
When you saw Stabler step in the huddle late in the game, fourth quarter, post-game, he'll get it done.
Stabler's favorite target was a future Hall of Fame receiver and the undisputed master in the artful use of stickum, the slow-footed, quick-thinking Fred Biletnikoff.
What was amazing to see was when he would shake off a tackle and then actually get some more yardage. He was the hands, you know. To see him run with the legs, you know, it's like, watch, he'll, in the slow motion, he'd always like take off, run, and then he'd fold up, like right about the time he was going to get hit.
Off the field, Biletnikoff and Stabler were leaders of the senior board, a team named for veterans who made late-night rounds.
He had this quote that I read. It said, "You can study your playbook just as well by the light of a jukebox as you can at a desk." And I thought, okay, he's the coolest guy.
He'd be 10 times more drunk than we were. He'd be out there playing football. We couldn't even get out of bed the following morning, you know?
If you go out there and you win, then what does it matter, you know, what those earlier 8 hours were all about?
Some players don't respond well to being, you know, controlled. So what Al did is he would bring them in, and the control that was exerted on those players was peer pressure. Okay, these guys wanted to belong to this Oakland Raider football team. This bunch of renegade guys that didn't follow a whole bunch of rules, but they followed some very strict rules on the football field. Play your ass off, you play when you're hurt, you don't let the other guy down, okay, and you never give up.
Over time, the Raiders gained a reputation for being a dirty team. They led the league in penalty yardage and suspicion.
We always assume the role of the villain no matter who we play because of all the bad press we get.
Davis and his henchmen were accused of everything from spying to inflating balls with helium to help their punter, Ray Guy, to drenching the field in water to slow down opposing teams.
It was one of those things you couldn't fight it. So I just said, yeah, we do. I mean, I remember once we're playing Kansas City, and I told Hank Stram before the game, I said, hey, Hank, the field's really wet. I told the guys just to water it for 3 hours. And I said, you know what the guys did? They went on a lunch break. I said, so they watered it for like 8 hours. They never turned the water off. And I said, so I'm sorry. I mean, we didn't water anything.
The A's went to spring training in 1974 looking for their third straight championship. But Finley did not care about history. Dick Williams had already quit in disgust. So Charlie O recycled Alvin Dark, a manager he'd fired once before.
Yes, he was fired. Yes, he expects to be fired again someday.
Charlie O spent the rest of the winter at arbitration hearings, battering the very players who'd won him championships.
And he goes, Mr. Arbitrator, balls go by him on the left, balls go by him on the right, balls go through his legs. Now, my wife is sitting next to me, and she sees the veins in my neck starting. And, I mean, I could feel myself going across the table, grabbing him and strangling him.
Charlie would say, oh, yeah, he did lead the league in home runs, but he only drove in 109 runs. And in leading the league, he only hit 36. He says, he's a superstar, and he should hit 30. And he should drive in 100. So really, he only hit 6 homers, and he only drove in 9. I just don't know what to do. He missed time. We had a 162-game schedule. He played 159. There were 3 days when we didn't have anyone of his caliber to put in a game when he was not on the job. The year before, he led the All-Star in votes. And this year, he just made the first team. He just got on the team, the starting team. But the year before, he was the biggest star. He slipped. And when you got done listening to him, you going to say, damn, man, I must have been horseshit.
That'll do it. Even in the face of Finley's unrelenting interference, the A's were able to keep on winning. But clubhouse tensions were building.
How could there be this much turmoil in a clubhouse and everybody hating the owner and everything else, and these guys are still winning? Well, we just had a bunch of talent on that ball club, and that's why we won.
The A's were a team of strong personalities that sometimes collided. Jackson, catcher Ray Fosse, and outfielder Billy North had all been involved in intramural incidents that ranged from wrestling matches to fistfights. In 1974, on the eve of their third straight series appearance, a nasty brawl erupted between Blue Moon Odom and Raleigh Fingers.
So, John Blue Moon Odom, he was obviously a fiery guy, take no crap type of guy, but great guy. But he was also known as the men among the men. The scuttlebutt was, Raleigh says, I don't know how your wife could take that thing. I heard after that, what do you mean, how can my wife, and boom.
I was having some marital problems, and he said something to me, I said something to him. Next thing you know, and that's just the way it was with our ball club.
There was something about the Oakland clubhouse that you were a family that fought, and on the field, we were tough. We were a tough band of really good players that were a great team.
Despite their 2 championships, the A's headed into the 1974 World Series against the Los Angeles Dodgers as underappreciated and undervalued underdogs.
Losing to the Oakland A's is like being run over by a Volkswagen.
Well, but it's a strong Volkswagen, though.
And the Volkswagen plowed through the Dodgers in 5 games for their 3rd straight series title, a feat that hadn't been accomplished since the Yankees of the early 50s.
The one-strike delivery, and he accidentally hits it down the left field line.
If we were playing in New York, they would be calling us the greatest team in baseball history.
We weren't going to lose. You had to beat us. We really couldn't lose. We could be beat, but you had to break us up to beat us.
Their attitude, man. I don't give a damn. I'm here just to win this game and kick ass.
Every year that I was in high school, the Oakland A's were in the World Series in October. That's pretty cool stuff.
When they went back to back to back, you almost felt like it put pressure to us. The baseball team is winning. The baseball team is good. The baseball team's world champions. We're the football team. We got to, we need to do the same thing.
Despite compiling the best winning percentage of any team in pro football through the mid-70s, the Raiders couldn't get to the Super Bowl. The AFC was loaded, forcing Oakland to compete against some of the finest teams in NFL history. In 1973, the Raiders beat the Steelers, only to lose to the Dolphins in the AFC Championship game. The next year, the Raiders triumphed over the Dolphins in the closing seconds, but lost to the Steelers. Once again, a game shy of the Super Bowl.
It seemed like we beat the snot out of Kansas City and Miami, and the Steelers would beat us. Then we'd beat the snot out of the Steelers, and Miami and Kansas City would beat us.
We just didn't know what we had to do. I mean, we knew going into training camp, we had the team, we had the ability, and we could get to that last game. But for some reason, the luck was always against us.
When the Raiders played on Sunday, our neighborhood, for the most part, it kind of came to a stop. The game took precedence, and if they lost, it was like a cast a pall over the neighborhood.
You start to hear that a good football team can't win the big one.
Before the 1975 season, Finley spit into baseball's changing face and allowed Catfish Hunter to leave via free agency. He was determined not to pay higher salaries.
He even expressed it as, Hammer, the game's getting away from me. Where they're going with this game is not the place for a businessman like me.
7 more of his players would be free agents after the '76 season. And since Finley had no intention of paying them, he started dealing them, sending Ken Holtzman and Reggie Jackson to Baltimore.
I was devastated because I knew nothing but Oakland A's. I sat around with Dave Duncan and cried.
On what became known as the Tuesday Night Massacre, Finley sold Joe Rudy and Raleigh Fingers to the Red Sox and Vida Blue to the Yankees.
The only regret is I didn't sell more.
Commissioner Bowie Kuhn voided the deal.
Disallowance of the assignment of the...
Finley called Kuhn a village idiot.
To New York.
He filed a $10 million lawsuit against him and refused to put Blue, Fingers, or Rudy back in the lineup.
Says Mr. Finley, if we don't have Rudy, Fingers, and Blue back by Sunday's game, we're not playing.
Finley relented, but the A's fell 2.5 games short of a divisional title for the first time in 6 years, and the Mustache Boys' run had ended.
The end of the '76 season was probably the low point of my career. I think a lot of guys felt that way.
Because none of us wanted to leave. We loved living in Oakland. And so we had all given him offers to try to sign. And he didn't even return our offers. I think he could have signed most of us for less than any of us got.
You know what was weird? Pitching against those guys, pitching to Reggie when he was with the Orioles, pitching to Bando when he was with Milwaukee, pitching to Gino when he was with San Diego. So, something was wrong with that pitcher.
I kept telling myself, don't say anything negative about Finley. Don't say anything negative about Oakland. I mean, I just didn't want to do that. And so one of the questions at the press conference is, how does it feel to leave Oakland? And I wasn't thinking, and the first thing out of my mouth was, how do you think the passengers felt on the Titanic?
With the A's dismantled, the city's hopes rested with the Raiders. They had made the playoffs 9 times in 10 years, but they still had no championship to show for it.
76, we were focused. I'll never forget Madden in his first talk in training camp, and he said, guys, we're going back to the cover 3, cover 2, and cover 6. 3 basic coverages. They're going to know what we're going to do. I don't care. We're going to be that much better than them. We're going to tell them what we're going to do, and I don't care. We're going to beat them.
The first game was against the hated Steelers, and it set the tone for the season to come. The Soul Patrol met Lynn Swann, Pittsburgh's great wide receiver, and knocked him down and out.
He came across the middle. I jumped him, you know. I thought, here it is.
After the game, Steelers coach Chuck Noll accused Atkinson of being part of a criminal element.
When Noll drops that in, okay, now it's a holy war, and if it changed the dynamic between the two cities, it only made an unfriendly situation worse.
Len Swann shouldn't have cried like he did, because this is football. This is for men, you know, and not for babies.
The Raiders went 13-1 in 1976 and clinched their 9th Western Division championship in 10 years. They squeaked by the Patriots in the divisional playoff and then awaited their opponent in the AFC championship game.
I said, give us the Steelers. You know, we can take the Steelers. And it was our turn.
It was the Steelers, the 5th straight year that Oakland and Pittsburgh would meet in the playoffs. And it was the Raiders' turn, 24-7, and on to the Super Bowl.
I mean, the Steelers were the hurdle. And once they cleared that, this is inevitable. The Vikings have no chance to win this game. We're going to hit them with a bag of chisels, and we're going to walk over their dead bodies. And that's it.
From the Rose Bowl Stadium in Pasadena, California, it is Super Bowl 11.
I remember the night before the game, in my hotel, I was sitting in my hotel and I was talking to Al Davis on the phone, and I says, we're ready. We're going to kill these guys. Al's, no, don't say that. Don't say that. And I don't think I ever said that before. I mean, I don't think it was, because I was never, I mean, I always felt we were going to win, but I never said it, you know. And I said it. And so it was just a confidence that, you know, we'd waited so doggone long to get there. That, I just felt this is it. I mean, there's no way we're going to be denied.
John's pregame speech was probably the shortest one I'd ever heard him give. John just looked around the room. He said, gentlemen, this will be the single biggest event in your life. Only if you win. Let's go.
the other team came back and they looked like a bunch of Jock Letterman with their crew-cut haircuts and doing a da-da-da-da-da-da. And the Raiders come out, man, I mean, they looked like they had a 3-day hangover. Their whiskers are all out.
He's going down the middle, and White makes the catch. He is free, but holds on to the football, losing the helmet. Chin strap flying one way, helmet the other. Holy Toledo.
They hit Jack Tatum and Skip Thomas. Delivered to Sammy White. Let me know from that point on, this is our game.
Hand off to Vanazak. He powers over. Touchdown Raiders. Now it's first and goal, and the power formation is in. Bankston on the right side as a wing back. Stabler back to pass. A quick throw into the end zone. Casper, touchdown Raiders. Yasha Heifetz never played a violin with more dexterity than Kenny Stabler is playing the Minnesota Viking defense. And he looks and throws. Intercepted by the Oakland Raiders. The 30, 40, 50. Old man Willie. He's going all the way.
Once Willie scored that, then the celebration.